Welcome to Ghana.
Thank you.
Yeah. How has it been? The experience of being in Ghana?
Yeah, it's the first time that I am in your country, and I must say that, of course, most of the time we worked together with my colleagues from the Division Africa. But up to now, I have to say that I enjoyed it very much.
Enjoying it very much. You met on Wednesday and on Thursday. What are some of the things that you discussed?
We had as you probably know, the General Assembly of the Division Africa, where we had some very important items to discuss. One of the items was, of course, the election of the representative of Africa in our board. And I'm very proud to inform you that Jeremy, my best friend from Cameroon, one of the best players of the world, he was one of the best players, will be the one who is joining our team in the World Board of FIFPro. Besides that, we discussed the situation in Africa and the position of the FIFPro and the status quo of the negotiations with FIFA to change the situation not only in Africa but all over the world.
What is this situation?
This situation is right now that FIFA, with the new president, which we have, and personally I have a very good relationship with, is elected, as we all know, already more than 1 year ago. And he promised the players, the FIFPro, just to reform and to work on the better position of players in his famous plan 2.0. That was the name of the plan, in which he also promised to really respect the fundamental rights of players as workers according to the labor law on a worldwide level.
Having been working all these years to ensure that the rights of players are respected, how difficult has it been for you to get FIFA to buy into this idea?
It's quite clear that besides FIFA as the governing body of the world of football has own partner to dance the tango with, like the Argentines are saying, and that is the World Organization of Players, and that is FIFPro, where I am proud to be the Secretary General of.
Okay.
And in our context, we always said that within football we have football development, which is of course a very important issue. To develop football is one thing, but there is another thing that is professional football. And professional football, of course, that is my job, to protect the rights of players, because we all know that although football is the most popular sport in the world, the rights of players are not always protected very well.
Have there been instances where you feel that the rights of players are disrespected?
Now, as you know, everybody in the world of football thinks that players are privileged to be a football player. But I know, I was a player, that they all started at the age of 7 and they all dream to be a new top player. But only 1% of our players, from the 60,000 players we have as a member, 1% has the possibility to play during their 10-year career to be financially independent. The other 99% of our players all over the world has to find another job. Football players are also normal human beings. They are married, they have children, and they have a profession to do. And for these 99% of our players, we would like to have normal working conditions.
FIFPro, as we know, represent the interest of players, and there've been this racism all over the world. Is this a canker that can be eradicated from football? Because some people say racism, we cannot eradicate it from the game of football.
Yes, I was for a long time a member of the task force anti-racism of FIFA, which unfortunately it's not longer the case. It does not exist any longer. I have a very black and white opinion about it. Of course, in football, also my players, we cannot change the world. But we also have to understand that anti-racism is something which is not only in football, but we have the responsibility with our players to fight against anti-racism, which we will do. We have done already a lot of campaigns with players, and we still continue to do that. And I really would like to ask FIFA, and we are working on that, is to fight together with us, because to say that you would like to fight against racism is one thing, but really do something about it. We have a lot of examples from players who are fans throwing bananas on the pitch. There's only one possibility to stop racism in stadiums against players, and that is that the referee must have the possibility to stop the game if these kinds of things happen. And then we all say, yes, but football has to go on, we have to finish the match, otherwise we have problems. But there is only one possibility. If you really want to fight against racism in stadiums and in football, then you have to take the necessary measures and to have the guts to stop the matches at the moment these things happens.
What do you make of FIFA's decision to disband the anti-racism force?
Listen, again, FIFA is, of course, as a governing body, responsible also. And you cannot expect from the players that they, in the stadiums where they play, that our players, that the fans are misbehaving themselves. That's the responsibility of the FIFA, the responsibility of the clubs, and of course also the responsibility of the players. But within the players, I think we do not have this problem. We have the problems with the fans in the stadiums. And there we have to take the really necessary measures to prevent it. But once again, this problem is not only a problem within football, but we are responsible, at least in our sports, to have a clean sport where players are not having this problem in the stadiums and outside the stadiums right away.
Earlier, I was saying that in Africa, the conditions we have here are different from that of Europe. What is FIFPro doing to ensure that these conditions, this disparity is breached?
It's a good question, because everybody thinks that football is played in Europe, and that is it. Don't forget that I would like to give two comments on that. We, as I said, we are a global organization. I spend much more time of my work on the other continents outside Europe. That's, for us, football is a global sport. And the conditions in a lot of countries in West Europe, the big countries, they have all the players and everything they need. They have good accommodations, very good salaries. But in the other part of Europe also, take in East Europe, the players are also suffering and are not being paid. So Europe is not an ideal world. But besides that, that's the second point, is that, as I said, I spend much more of my time to have better circumstances for the players in Asia. I came back from Korea 2 weeks ago, and the players are slaves in Korea. They cannot even speak in public. And then we look at the situation in South America, where also players have not a lot of rights. And last but not least, the worst situation is in Africa, where players still are, and also especially also the young players, are still working under conditions which are not acceptable for us. There has to be a lot of things change in Africa. Because you have the best players of the world, also in Ghana, you have the best players of the world. But that is the reality. You have very good players, but all your good players are playing in Europe. And we have to stop that. We have to create an environment where players are really happy to play in their own country under the same circumstances as they can play in Europe. That is one of our objectives. We really have to work very hard with our division Africa to make this position of players much better.
What mechanisms have been kept in place to bridge the gap between the conditions of African players and that of their counterparts in Europe?
the gap, and we have to be realistic, is big between the position of players, especially in West Europe and Africa. And how are we going to solve that? And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is that what we have to start with is that every player in this country, professional player, needs to have a contract, a standard contract. A standard contract from which the federation has to register the contract, a copy has to go to the club and a copy to the player. It all starts professional football with a standard contract. And that is still not the case in Africa. The second point is, if there is a dispute between the player and the club, you need to have a possibility to solve this problem. You need to have a national dispute resolution chamber, we call that, where you have equal representation from clubs and players, independent from the federation. And third, last and not least, you need to have an implementation, and that is crucial, of a licensing system for clubs. As we have it all over the world, and FIFA now is working on that, and that every country where professional football is played, every club participating in a professional competition has to be committed himself to the conditions. One of the conditions is that you pay the players. Another condition is that you give the possibility to a player to train in normal circumstances. And the most important thing is that if you do not, if the club is not in complying with these conditions, that then they will be sanctioned. It happens in Europe, then the club cannot participate any longer in the competition. These three measures really has to be necessary to implement in Africa. If we don't do that, we will never solve the problem of professional football, of the players and the clubs in Africa.
Is there an agreement between FIFA and FIFPro that clubs that fail to provide better conditions for their players will be sanctioned?
We are very close to a deal with FIFA and the leagues on a worldwide level and the clubs on a worldwide level, where we are going to accept the two following things. First of all, that it is not longer possible that clubs are not paying the salaries at all or not on time. It's a fundamental right for a player that he will receive his salary on time. That's measure number one. And that will be implemented on the national level in every country member of FIFA. The second, a very important measure is that the abuse of players, that players are forced to train alone, or that the players has to be forced to sign another country with a lower salary, that we will kick that out of football. Players are also have the right, if you have a contract, that the contract of the player is respected. First of all, that he is paid on time, and secondly, that the club is respecting the contract during the period he has signed for. That also means that the player has the obligation towards the club to do up utmost and to play as best as he can.
Is FIFPro coming out with something that, let's say, in the world, all clubs must pay their players not below $1,000? Is this something FIFPro is putting before FIFA and to the federations?
This is something which is the fact that 41% of the players in Africa are not paid on time. This is damaging the reputation of our sport, and it is absolutely unacceptable, and it also will not help the players, but also not help the development of professional football. Because if I was a player from Africa and I should play in a competition in Africa and I'm not being paid, I also should think, you know what I do? I'm going to play somewhere else where I have been paid. Because also a player is a normal human being. He has a family, he has kids, he has to pay the rent of his house. This is sometimes what we forget. Players are exactly the same as you are and I am. Yeah? Human beings who do their job, and they want to do their job well, but then you have to pay them. It's simple. How simple can it be?
Have you proposed standard salaries for players?
It is very crucial. We discussed this also this morning with the president of the Federation of Ghana, Football Federation. It is very important that you have minimum standards in this country. Minimum salaries. It is in every country where professional football is played. It needs to be an obligation that it needs to pay the minimum salaries to players, and that the players knows that, and that you cannot play below the minimum salaries. This is a fundamental thing which we have to introduce. It's already done all over the world, except in Africa.
Are there sanctions for federations that fail to put that standard across?
That is a very important question. Of course, we can change the rules, we can implement the rules, but if the federation and the clubs not respecting the rules on the national level, then there has to be, as we call it, an enforcement system. That means that if a federation is not respecting the rules from FIFA, then there has to be sanctions. And the sanctions are that the federation can be suspended. The other sanction is that the federation will not get the payments anymore from FIFA. Another measure is that you cannot be playing for the qualification of the World Cup. But then you damage the players. That is what we not prefer. There are very practical, simple measures to oblige the federations to respect the rules of FIFA.
You mentioned that 41% of African players are not paid. This was a research of FIFPro last year. Have there been any changes so far?
Unfortunately, I can answer this question. No. As long as we cannot implement the regulations from above, as long as we have not implemented this protection in the regulations of FIFA, in the transfer regulations, we will not solve this problem. I'm a little bit afraid that it is even worse than last year.
It's even worse than last year?
Yes.
So what is FIFPro doing about it? Realizing that upon your research, 41% of the players were not paid on time, 45% are not paid at all, and it is getting worse. What is FIFPro doing about this?
That's exactly, we can do only one thing, change the rules. And as I said, we have the support of FIFA, we have the support of the top clubs, because also the top clubs are not happy that players are not paid. It damages the reputation of our industry, because football is a business on the worldwide level, and it also, what is very important, it is for the fans who are going to watch the match, knowing that these players are not being paid, can be also, and that is one of the problems in football, match fixing. These players, I have examples from players, from presidents of clubs in Europe, in East Europe, where a president of a club is not paying the salaries of the players, and then after 8 months not being paying the salaries, said it was just half an hour before the match to the players, if you lose this game today, you will be paid the next day after. So that's also one of the reasons why we have to exclude this from football. Football, the integrity of the game, is a very important issue. And I really think that we have to, and I understand players, if you're not being paid for eight months, to say, okay, then we lose the game, then we will get our money. That is very bad for the integrity of our game. So also the integrity is in stake. And everybody in the world of football, on the highest level, understand that we have to really exclude this from our beautiful game.
Have there been situations where players have come to your table that they've not been paid for this period and you've taken sanctions?
It is very difficult, because what can a player do? We have in Argentina the players, and that is 2 months ago, they all decided to stop playing football.
Which club?
That is the whole division.
Okay.
This first and second division for 1 week has not played. We even had the support of the top clubs in Argentina. because they said we have to pay the players. Not only with the top clubs, but all the clubs have to pay. And we have this an unbelievable strike we had in Spain, where the top players of the Barcelona and Madrid, where these players are showing the solidarity to the players from the second division. And they said, we do not play as long as these players are not paid. The problem in Argentina is solved. The problem in Spain is solved. But in a lot of countries, especially even in Africa, the players are not so powerful as the top clubs, the players from the top. So the only possibility is, and I say it again, that we are going to exclude it. And that has to be supported by the clubs, the leagues, but especially by FIFA. And of course, the CAF, in this case in Africa, the UEFA in Europe. All the international governing bodies are standing behind us. And now it has to happen. For that reason, out of frustration, already 2 years ago, we went to court in Europe and we had a complaint with the European Commission, and we still have this complaint up and running just to solve this problem. And under pressure of this complaint, that's one of the reasons. That's you can go to the court just to repair this problem, and we have done that. It's a package of measures we have done. We have done the labor market research, we have started negotiations, and now it's time to score the goal. The objective is just to ban this problem of overdue payables, especially and the abuse of players, out of football. And we have to do that not for next year, but we have to do it this year. And I'm quite convinced that we can do it this year, even before, let's say, September.
In Ghana, I don't know, you might have been briefed that in this country, the salaries of players is so bad. There are some people who even take less than $50, players who take less than $100. You met with the president of the Ghana FA. Did you get an assurance from him that there will be standardized payment of players?
We had a very fruitful meeting with your president, and we came to some conclusions. First of all, and that's the reason why we immediately also contacted FIFA. We are trying to implement these rules. Also in Ghana and in Africa. But FIFA decided after the meeting to have Ghana as a pilot project. And that means that we will have minimum salaries as soon as possible.
In Ghana?
Contract in Ghana. That we also agreed with the president that we will have a minimum standard contract. And that also with the help of FIFA and the help of FIFPro, we are coming back to establish also a national dispute resolution channel. And Ghana is the first country in Africa where FIFA and FIFPro are working together to bring this contract. And also, which we agree on minimum salaries in this country. Just to show the world that it is possible also for the other federations, that it is possible in Africa to have the same rules as we have in Europe.
Tonobafo is here. He unveiled the PFAG office yesterday. What do you make of Tonobafo's influence in the game of football, especially in Ghana?
Listen, I do this job for a long time. In every country where we have this problem, you need the support of the top players and ex-top players, like Anthony Bafu. Crucial in the fight for the players playing in this country without salaries or for $15 per month. And they have to take a responsibility, and they do that. That's the strength of FIFPro. The strength of FIFPro is that the players are united.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you.